What up, world? Welcome to another episode of the BrandonJaneauShow. Show. As you know, I am the host, Brandon Janeau. And like always, on all podcast platforms everywhere, BrandonJaneauShow. Show. Social media platforms, Instagram and Threads, Brandon Janeau. Facebook, The BrandonJaneauShow. Show. And of course, TikTok, BrandonJaneauShow. Show. Twitter, X, B Janeau. So go there. I say this all the time. I'm gonna start posting on there. Then I don't post on there, and it's just a big ass conglomerate, a big situation. I need to get back to posting on X. I don't really use it that much except laugh at shit all day on X. The shit just be that fucking funny. I laugh my ass off on that shit. I'm sorry, but it's funny, man. But where you really can just go is just simply YouTube. YouTube channel, Brandon Janeau Show. Subscribe, comment. I do comment back. Shout out to everybody that has subscribed. Over 200 subscribers. I appreciate every single person that has subscribed and stayed subscribed. I appreciate you guys. And it's been 5 years, damn, of this podcast, Lord Jesus. Uh, yeah, man. And hopefully in 2025, I continue to push, continue to do these things, continue to go back at it. One of the staples of this podcast has been life and times with music. It was the staple when I was doing it with my family, and we used to do the top 10 lists, all the top 10 lists on Tuesdays and everything, man. Life and Times Music has always been a staple of this podcast, and hopefully I get back into it in 2025. I know I've been kind of like dragging my feet with that this year. Yeah, music has just gotten really fucking bad the last couple of years. There's not really anything to talk about. But I will be talking. I will be doing the top 10 list of music, my favorite songs. There's not really that many albums that I like this year. To be honest with you guys, I can't even name one that I really was like, yeah, that was a good album. I can't name one. One, yeah, I can. It's one, but that's pretty much it. I don't want to force albums on my list because people think it's supposed to be on the list. Like, no, I'm not doing that. But one staple of the life of times of music that I've done very long and very well is the artist breakdown. Artist breakdown. I've always done artist breakdowns, and tonight is no exception. I'm getting back into it. I've been dragging my feet on it, not because I didn't want to do it, but because I keep sitting there saying, "I'm gonna do it eventually. I'm gonna do it today," and then I don't do it, and I'm gonna do it tomorrow, and then I don't do it, and it's just like I gotta do it eventually. So here we go. Life and times with music today, tonight. It is the artist breakdown, and no other artist really, really is very underrated and overrated at the same time. There's not that many. I don't know how people really rate this artist. For some people, I think that this artist has kind of grown out of what they first was. Um, and it's kind of why I think a lot of people maybe overrate this person. But I think what we don't do is also talk about truly what this person's legacy really is in the senses of hip hop. Because this person's legacy is actually very fucking underrated. People don't talk about it enough. The person I'm talking about tonight on this artist breakdown is a man that I truly believe that, like I said, is very controversial when it comes to hip hop in a sense. And I tell you why, because like I said, a lot of people don't really know to rate this person. They don't know how to rate him. But I believe that this person actually is the reason for why hip hop is even popular. I know that sounds crazy as shit to say, but this man is one of the reasons why hip hop is even fucking popular. He's the reason why hip hop is even popular. The artist that I'm talking about tonight, hip hop artist, rapper that I'm talking about tonight, is the one, the only Snoop Dogg. Snoop D-O-double-G. Snoop Dogg, man. Snoop is underrated and overrated at the same damn time when it comes to hip hop. If you ask the right person, they'll tell you, man, Snoop is one of the reasons why I started listening to hip hop. And if you ask the wrong person, they'll tell you I don't get Snoop. I don't know what it was. I don't. Snoop is probably the most. If there was like a hip hop and hip hop, and if there was like an ambassador of hip hop, Snoop would be the person. It's like, like you try to ask people about like this person and that person, that person and this person, and then you'll be like, and then you ask, and then you say something like, you try to tell them about hip hop, and like, Snoop. And they're like, yeah, I know Snoop. Okay, Snoop is a rapper. You know Snoop. You know the rapper Snoop. Okay, cool. And then you and then you'll get into it. People don't understand, man. Snoop made hip hop popular in the early 90s. People don't know Snoop was the crossover artist. A lot of people in suburbia, first album, if it wasn't The Chronic, it was probably Doggy Style. And that's the thing that people don't understand. Snoop is the reason. I think Snoop is truly the reason for why hip hop is so crossover. Like Snoop was the first person that a lot of white suburban kids truly was like, I fuck with Snoop. I'm buying his album. I'm going to his shows. I want to fuck with Snoop. When MTV started playing hip hop videos in the late 80s, early 90s, you got to realize The Chronic came out, what, 91, 92, 91? Yeah, 91, 92. This man became, you know, a superstar, man. Like this man is a superstar, man. And I don't think people truly understand that Snoop. And I get now that Snoop's career is like this, like I said, this ambassador of hip hop. He's kind of now become a household name. But like, bro, if you go all the way back to the '90s, Snoop was that fucking dude, bro. Like, people don't give that man his fucking credit. I don't think people give Snoop enough fucking credit. I think so many people are so used to the Snoop we have today. People forget, like, bro, if it wasn't for Snoop, we wouldn't have the Chronic album. We wouldn't have Death Row. Snoop was the first artist to get signed to Death Row. Like, Snoop is the reason for why Pac signed to Death Row. Like, yo, Snoop it was a game changing generational artist. A lot of people don't get that man his proper respect and his proper credit, man. He literally was the reason why the West Coast stayed so dominant for a really long portion in the 90s. And even in the early 2000s. See, that's another thing that people don't do. We don't give Snoop his proper respect for what he did in the 2000s, but Snoop in the early 90s, man, pretty much wrote the Chronic album, man, and literally launched Death Row Records with Dr. Dre and Suge Knight. He became this juggernaut in hip hop at this time. And like I said, he is the reason for why hip hop became a popular genre of music. Snoop is one of the reasons, one of the factors for why hip hop became such a popular force in the 90s. Excuse me. Snoop was the first person that bridged a lot of these urban these the urban hip hop, world to suburbia. Snoop was the first person, man, that really made a lot of these Jewish kids, white kids really fuck with him. And I think that's the thing about people that don't understand, like that when I hear people try to like diss Snoop, it's like, what the fuck how you diss Snoop? How you sit there and try to say Snoop ain't and Snoop this and Snoop, bro? If it wasn't for Snoop, I don't even think that hip hop would even be in the situation that it's in. Snoop is the main force for why hip hop even became this juggernaut. It's crazy to me that people really will sit there and try to diss Snoop like that and talk down on his legacy. Snoop's legacy is cemented, bro. Like Snoop, if it wasn't for Snoop, bro, like we wouldn't have the West Coast like we have the West Coast. Like I don't give a shit if you are a super Kendrick fan. I don't give a fuck if you fucked with the game heavy. You realize like Pac said Snoop was the reason for why he signed to Death Row. Yo, Snoop was the shit, bro. Like I don't understand people that don't give that man his proper credit, man. I don't get it. I get it that Snoop now has become kind of like this funny, funny, like I said, kind of like the ambassador of hip hop. He's become such a laid back person. But when we talk about Snoop, man, you realize that like when we sit there and say suburban mobs and these soccer moms, well, Snoop was the first person that these soccer moms really was fucking with when they were kids. So that's the thing, man. Snoop is just legendary, bro. Like I don't get how people that don't get that Snoop is one of the greatest to ever do it, man. He is the reason for why hip hop is the way it is. Like I said, man, the first time you hear Snoop is on what Deep Cover for Dr. Dre. Come on, man. Like this man's on Deep Cover, writes that song, goes off and writes the Chronic album, like which is literally one of the greatest hip hop albums of all time. And I will be doing next year. I will be finally doing my '90s, 2000s, and 2010s. Um, yeah, my '90s, 2000s, my 2010s. Uh, you know, that will be, you know, that I might do that at the top of the year. Just get that over and done with. But that's coming soon. Um, but yeah, the Chronic, man, the Chronic album. Snoop wrote that album, like wrote most of that album. He wrote, uh, he the man wrote most of that album. Like, you got to give him that fucking credit, man. Like, I know we all seen Straight Outta Compton, and Dr. Dre's at the keyboard, and he playing the song, and he playing the song, and everything, and then you hear, and then Snoop comes out and just starts to rap, nothing but a G thing. That man wrote that song, bro. Like that man is fucking talented, bro. Like, and then goes off and has probably one of the greatest debut records of all time, debut rap albums of all time in Doggy Style, which is still referred to this day as one of the greatest, debut rap albums of all time. Like, I think people don't understand like the legacy of Snoop. Like that man's legacy is unreal, man. This man at one point was going through, a murder trial. Snoop's career could have been completely and utterly different. His career could be completely and utterly different, man. Um, so for him to, you know, for for him to beat the case and then still have the legacy that he's had, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. People, I I was born in the '90s, '94, so around the Snoop murder trial case, wasn't even really aware of what it was, but people forget like how that was very important to a lot of fucking people. That is the thing about it, man. Snoop's legacy is cemented, man. Like I said, of course, people sit there and say, the second album didn't do well because of everything that was going on in Death Row, the turmoil in Death Row at the time, and then he got out of the Death Row contract because of Master P. He goes to No Limit for a couple years, go to No Limit, work on with No Limit, you know, does his thing in No Limit, and then then he leaves and goes and creates music in 2000s with the Neptunes, which relaunched his career. Like that shit just put him on a different level. Drop It Like It's Hot is still one of the greatest rap songs of the early 2000s. I don't give a shit what nobody say. That is a dope ass rap song. That whole album, the 2004 album that he had, is fucking fire. Of course, you had that. You had Beautiful come out. You had what else come out? Signs with him and Charlie Wilson and Justin Timberlake. Let's get oh man, like bro, that album was dope as a motherfucker, bro. And then he drops another classic, man. Snoop had hits throughout the early 2000s, bro. People choose not to actually, excuse me, give him his respect and his love for that. That man had hits on top of hits on top of hits. Like people don't understand, man. That man had hits in the early 2000s. You know, him and Akon and all that shit. The one thing about Snoop that I think people don't understand is that he continuously um evolves as time goes. Snoop has been in the game since 90, since 1999, I mean 1990, 1991. Snoop been in the game since the 90s. I'm 30. I was born in 94. Snoop been in the game for like 30, 34, 33 years. This man been rapping for like 33, 34 years. Like, what the fuck? And he continuously evolves. He gets to see the young talent come. See him and Wiz Khalifa doing a project. And you thinking in your head like, man, him and Wiz Khalifa, what the fuck? Are you serious? But the movie was funny as shit. And the fucking project was dope. Like the fucking whole project was dope. Mac and Dave go to high school. Like that bitch was dope. They got some fire songs on that project, bro. Like that fucking album was dope. Like, bro, like Snoop always finds ways to reinvent himself, and now he's into the podcast world and he's into the TV world. He's a judge on The Voice. The Voice started off as a singing competition. This man's a judge on The Voice. Let that sink in. A man in the 90s that was fighting for his life in a murder trial is a judge on The Voice 30 years later on TV. Snoop is so famous, we know he smoked weed, and we still choose to like be like, but it's Snoop. We get it. Like if Snoop walks in smoking weed, we like, it's Snoop. Who gives a fuck? Like, like you don't understand how crazy that shit sounds. Snoop had a TV show back in the day, like a reality TV show with his family, which was a dope ass fucking show. By the way, that was a dope ass show. Like early reality TV show years. That was a dope ass fucking show. I ain't even gonna lie. I used to watch that shit like every Sunday on E! Snoop has evolved past what we thought he would always be. And I get it. Like everybody now discredits his legacy sometimes because it's so what he's become is so different than what we thought he would be. But Snoop is the most well known, well liked rapper I think I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen a rapper. You got some critics of him. You got some critics of like Eminem and Jay Z and people like that. Snoop is the most beloved, probably rapper I've ever seen. I've ever seen. Shit is crazy. Like he's probably the most beloved I've ever seen. Somebody said this recently and said I think Snoop is the most well-known rapper, more well-known than Jay Z. Well, and I totally fucking agree. I think Snoop is one of the most well-known motherfucking rappers I've ever seen in my life. You know who Snoop is. You know who Snoop is. I don't give a fuck if you're in Japan, wherever you watch this or wherever you hear this. You know who Snoop Dogg is. That's the thing. Snoop made hip hop a popular genre of music. He did. And I know people don't want to give him that, but he's one of the reasons for why hip hop even crossed over to the mainstream. He is one of the reasons. Like I say, he's the main reason, but he's definitely a reason. Snoop was so fucking popular in the 90s. People do not remember this shit. Like Snoop was the shit. Doggy Style album was the most talked about debut album of all time. The man has reinvented himself numerous times. From the dog pound to death row to no limit to him striking out on his own and finally becoming his own artist and his own man to his times with the Neptunes to creating his own shit to him doing T Pain's auto tune for sexual seduction. The man has been a legend in the game for a long fucking time. I don't get the legacy. I don't get what people get mad at this man. The man had did something that even we couldn't even imagine, fathom. Him performing at the Super Bowl. The man performed at the Super Bowl, bro, as a headliner by Dr. Dre. That's another thing. Him going back and work with Dre on the Chronic 2001, which I still kind of okay. Here's like Chronic 2001 came out in '99, which is the funniest thing on the planet. I don't get how that it, it still gets sampled, so clearly I guess Dr. Dre had a vision for it. But um, but Snoop's legacy is cemented, man. Anybody that tells you, I think he's now even the head of Death Row. He now owns Death Row. Like, bro, like Snoop has had a legacy, a career that has spanned 30 something years, and I can't even get mad at it. Like, you gotta give him credit, man. Is Snoop one of my favorite rappers of all time? Nah, no. But what Snoop is, you can't really rate it, and I think that's the thing about a Snoop Dogg. You can't really rate what Snoop really is to hip hop because Snoop, like I said, Snoop's legacy is so great and it's so goaded, and that's why I'm saying like when people sit there and try to tell me he's overrated or underrated, you really can't rate Snoop Dogg. You really can't. You can't. His pen was fire, so much fire that it created an entire label. It created an entire label, bro. Like Snoop's legacy is cemented. He's the guy. He's one of the greatest to ever do it because of at a time when hip hop needed somebody like a Snoop, we got it. And then we didn't just get it, we got it. He's the reason for why hip hop, one of the reasons for why hip hop is crossover, it's mainstream, and he is definitely one of the reasons for why the West Coast was so dominant in the 90s and why it's still prominent to this day. Snoop is a walking hip hop institution. And you gotta give him his respect. That's what I do this for. I do artist breakdown because I want to give people their respect and their flowers, man. Snoop is one of those guys that definitely deserves to get that love and respect. Now, I did a top 10 list a long time ago. The first ever top 10 list I ever did with my family. It was the top 10 greatest rappers. And Snoop got kind of disrespected on that episode, man. It wasn't me, it was the fam. But I understood what they were trying to say. Like I said, you can't really rate Snoop. You really can't because his legacy isn't something you can rate because it's so widely well known, and it's hard to really rate what Snoop truly generally was for hip hop. And the things we do not really give him credit for, we actually need to give him more credit for. And the things we try to give him credit for, it's a small thing. It's not that big. Snoop is one of the greatest to ever do it. His legacy is cemented, and if it wasn't for Snoop, it wouldn't be the West Coast. I know people say the end is NWA. Snoop was right after NWA. Somebody needed to continue that wave. Excuse me. And that was Snoop. And Snoop made hip hop way more mainstream than people give him credit for. So much so that now, like I said, 30 years later, after being on a murder trial, this man's on the TV show The Voice on NBC as a judge. He's judging people's singing voices. You tell me if Snoop's legacy, you tell me if Snoop's legacy isn't one of the greatest. Next Lifetimes of Music will be me doing a top 10 list, clearly, of Snoop. Snoop is getting a top 10 list of my favorite songs by Snoop Dogg. This is gonna be a tough list. I ain't gonna lie. Snoop got some hits, man. Snoop got some fucking bangers from the 90s to the 2000s to the 2010. Man, Snoop got some bangers. Snoop got some fucking songs, bro. Snoop got some hits, bro. Snoop got some fucking hits, man. So, yeah, man. Snoop Dogg, man. You deserve the respect. You deserve your flowers, man. Respect to you, man, because you deserve it, man. Until next time, Life and Times Music. Peace. Go listen to some Snoop Dogg on all musical platforms everywhere. You guys enjoy. Peace.